mens moet lewe vir die oomblik en vir die toekoms.
What makes this place so special is firstly that it's we consider this sort of one of the last frontiers, Further up the coast, it's a UNESCO biodiverse hotspot, the biodiversity and the plants and the fauna and flora and things like that up here. Every year we have an amazing floral kingdom in spring, where the West Coast flowers come out. You can really sort of come and lose yourself up here and not see people for days, and I think that that's really what draws me in. 4 or 5 hours out of Cape Town, you can be sort of on another planet, which is good from time to time. I've been coming up this coast since I was about 13 years old. I actually spent my 13th birthday in Elands Bay, which is just south of here. This is a very wave-rich and unpopulated part of the world, so we come up here and generally we get to surf on our own, and there's some world-class surf spots around here. It's been a lifelong journey, I guess. 20 odd years, 30 odd years. Around the middle of last year, that I became aware of a couple of mining operations that were sort of running amok up here. It was the same, this one particular one is an Australian mining company. I read an article in the Daily Maverick, I think, that someone sent to me that these guys had just been granted a 10-beach extension to their existing mine, which is just north of the Olifants River. Middle to late last year, I took a trip up there and I went camping and surfing on my own, in an area just south of where this Tormund mine is. I just saw what was going on and came back and chatted to my friends again, and we decided there and then that we needed to do something. A couple of members of the crew had already reached out to some knowledgeable people from UCT and from the legal community, and we sort of found out what was happening and did our best to get involved. And it also sort of, that time coincided with me exiting my brand Sealand that I started in 2015. I had a bit more time in my hands, and these two things coincided where I had time, and the West Coast has always been a big part of my life, and I come up here with my family, and it just went from there. I'm an environmentalist by heart, and I'm also an entrepreneur, and I've sort of got a business mind, and I tend to think quite creatively when it comes to business. I'm by no means a corporate. So Sealand was very much my baby, my concept, and it took me a few years to get to the point where we could turn a business like that into a way to make a living. And now, with Protect the West Coast, what I've done there is I've managed to bring, sort of a business mindset and element into the NGO space, and managed to really get quite a lot done from a perspective of highlighting what's happening on the West Coast and bringing that into the public domain. So, a lot of NGOs and sort of activist individuals up the West Coast that have been operating up here for a long time, they've really struggled with that element, and so we've been pretty successful in that way. All the sort of business ventures and things that I get into, I need to have a very strong environmental theme. Basically try to do business in a way that it does no unnecessary harm on the planet, It's the first time in my life that I've got into the sort of NGO space, and I've found that really gratifying, and it's been an amazing experience to push the powers that be into a space that can make some fundamental change, So we're our long-term strategy for the West Coast area from a mining perspective is to put pressure on these miners to make sure that they, if they do get the rights to mine in an area, that they do it according to the law and within their environmental plans. In the South African Constitution, we have very strong environmental laws, and they're all very good. The problem is that they're not properly enforced. There's very little follow-up or oversight by government who are tasked with doing that, Also, we want to get government to look at the West Coast in a different way, At the moment, they're just sort of green-lighting all these mining operations ad hoc. These projects are being green-lighted from Pretoria, which is 1,500 kilometers away. We are pushing for what is known as a strategic environmental assessment of the West Coast, which it's in short it's a C. And if we can get government to sort of take on the results of a SEA, and which will sort of encourage them to look at the West Coast in different ways. Things like tourism, ecotourism, farming, fishing, heritage, all those amazing elements that make up communities up here, they've sort of been left by the wayside, and it's really important and that their voices are heard, And by getting this SEA implemented by government, we're hoping that will sort of change the trajectory of the West Coast away from just turning it into one big mine dump to all the other great things that the West Coast can be, This is a personal favorite of mine. This particular farm is owned by Albert and Carol. As far as I know, there's some First Nation Khoisan paintings and things in those rocks over there. The guys have turned this place into an amazing little accommodation, very West-Coasty accommodation thing called the West Coast Quarry. And there's just happens to be along the stretch of coast here, probably about 10 or 12 world-class surf spots. When we come here, we love it because you can go surfing all day, and then you can come have a lekker braai in the evening and check, see this amazing view and just feel the West Coast vibe. I feel like everyone's got to band together, all the stakeholders, all the communities, all the young people, everybody that has enjoyed this area or has lived in this area, or even just wants to see wild spaces and all that kind of stuff be conserved for future generations and for the next 100 years, then you've got to get involved, With social media and petitions and things like that, there's no reason not to get involved and to activate for the things that you believe in. My connection to coming up here and getting in the water and going for a surf and surfing with dolphins and seals and just really connecting with nature is a fundamental part of who I am and also keeping me happy. Getting out into nature is just an important part of being human, I think.